Thank you for joining us for this session of the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. This series is designed to help K-12 educators reimagine education with Blackboard's K-12 teaching and learning solutions. The K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series harnesses the power of our K-12 community of academic leaders, teachers, and other experts to provide relevant, real-time, on-demand, and ongoing professional development opportunities for educators. My name is Katie Gallagher, and I'm the Senior Product and Solution Marketing Manager for Blackboard's Teaching and Learning Solutions and Products, and will be serving as the moderator for the series. Thank you to Colleen Smith from our K-12 marketing team, who will be helping to answer questions today in the chat. We'll be joining you for the series this fall as the moderators. We're always open to new ideas for topics for the series, so please let us know if you're interested in presenting for a future session this spring. Just email me at katie.gallagher@blackboard.com. Each webinar in this series is recorded. You can search for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series playlist on the Blackboard TV YouTube channel, or go to tinyurl.com/bitsK12. You'll receive the recording and the presentation slides in PDF form in a few days after each webinar by email. In addition, you'll receive an invitation to participate in the professional learning community for this series on course sites. It's designed to augment the series and create an avenue for ongoing collaboration and dialogue. Please accept this invitation and participate in the new online PLC. As you can see, we have many exciting professional development sessions lined up. Please join us next Monday for the School-University Partnership for Preparing and Supporting K-12 Online Teachers with Leslie Fetzer and Leslie White of the North Carolina Virtual Public School. Leslie Fetzer was actually the K-12 Online Teacher of the Year a couple years ago, so they'll be presenting on Monday. Be sure to download also, if you haven't done already, the BB K-12 Live app for more PD on demand. Every session of the series is added into this app as we record them. And I'm very excited to welcome today's presenter, Kristen Gomez. She's going to be leading us in the flipped classroom, growing student engagement in the elementary instrumental music. And I was just speaking to Kristen as we were setting up for the session. Kristen has the distinct honor of being in one of the most well-attended sessions at BB World this summer. We had a flipped classroom panel of K-12 teachers that included Kristen and Larry Fallon from Arlington Public Schools, as well as David Hammond from Medina Public Schools in Ohio. And it was the second most attended session of BB World this past summer. So we're very pleased to have her speaking for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. Today, you'll learn how she uses Blackboard to flip her elementary beginning and intermediate strings classes. Her flipped classroom facilitates logistics, builds community, and makes it possible for her students to find class materials with the click of a button. In these music classes, her students and parents have all the materials such as handouts, videos, photos, sheet music, and lessons available 24/7 on their computers and smartphones. The flipped classroom lets her get more done in class because homework experiences are focused and tailored to the student's learning and her specific lesson planning. Kristen Gomez is currently the director of Suzuki in the schools at Abington Elementary. She's the director of the Junior Honors Orchestra of Arlington Public Schools and is a string teacher at Ashland Elementary School. In her 20-year teaching career, she's taught middle and high school French, guitar, and orchestra. She is also a busy freelance viola player in the Washington, D.C. area. So we're very pleased to welcome Kristen. And at this point, Kristen, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much for leading the session today.
Well, thank you very much. It's very fun to be here. And as Katie said, thank you, Katie, I will present what I do in my flipped classroom in the hopes that it will help other people come up with their own ideas for managing their classrooms. And what I do like to try is building that engagement, because in music, the students have so much to learn and so much to do but if I can't build that engagement in the class, we're really not going to get anywhere. So I'm going to get started here. First of all, I want to talk today about what does my classroom look like? Why? Why would I need to flip my classroom? We have lots of method books, we have lots of CDs, but why did I decide to flip my particular classroom? I want to talk a little bit about pacing, because I think pacing is one of the critical elements that makes the flipped classroom so vital and so necessary. Logistics, really, really, really helpful in terms of being a music teacher, because we have thousands of pieces of sheet music, and it really helps the kids, and it helps the organization of the class when they can find all their materials. The other thing I like is it helps kids to learn to keep themselves organized, because they know where to find things, they know where to look. I have some questions that I had asked before I flipped my classroom, and I'll go over some of those questions. I'd like to talk about just the Blackboard resources that I use particularly that work very well for me, and I'll just share with you some of the reflections of my 4th and 5th graders. A quick view, if you looked at my classroom, you would think, oh my gosh, how can she do it? But I have organized the whole thing on Blackboard. So once a student gets into the Blackboard site, they will have lessons 1 through 10, then 10 through 20. Students know which lesson they're on. Lessons are numbered so that it helps them pace themselves. They have, every single lesson is a video as well as a print. So I make a video of the things I want them to do in the lesson, and then I give them explanation in a Word document, generally PDF documents. So they can find all of their lessons as very beginners, lessons 1 through 10, then another file, lessons 10 through 20. The reason this works so well is that I want my classroom to be used for making music. I don't want to be using my class time to say, this is a D, this is an E, here's how you play an A. Those are the things that kids can do at home that they can figure out where is the A string because they can watch it on a video. They can see, how do I use my first finger to play an E? Well, that's not something that's a really deep, that we can really work on in class. We want class time to be spent in making better tone quality, in using better bow. So when you come into my classroom, we will be just playing lots of different musical activities, but I'll never be showing the kids, this is an E, and here's how you play E, because that's what they can do at home, and it frees us up to have a lot of time so the kids can understand how to produce a beautiful tone. That's the most important thing when you're playing an instrument. How do you produce a beautiful tone? So things that they can work on by themselves, I analyze and I make in their home lessons. So they can watch those things on video, they can look at those things with print, and when they come into class, we will work on how does it really sound like music and how does it really sound beautiful. Because those two last things, they can't do by themselves at home with a video. They really need a skilled teacher. The other nice thing about the flipped classroom, if you walked in, you might think, not everyone's working on the same thing at the same time. Well, no, because one student may have just arrived at the school and might be working on lesson number 1. One student might be working on lesson number 5, and I will have more time to walk around the room, adjust finger position, adjust the bow hand position, and it's really, really wonderful. So when you walk into my classroom, you're not going to see, well, sometimes, but you're not going to see everybody sitting and learning the same thing at the same time. Everybody's learning musical skills, but within the context of perhaps a different piece because people are at different levels. As I said, everything is posted in Blackboard. Any piece of sheet music that they need, every single song that we're going to work on, I make a video myself, and I put them in the order of from the first song to the last song. So from the beginning song to the most advanced. I also make recordings without the video on the piano of all of the songs so that they can have more listening without watching. In order to play these musical instruments, they need a lot of listening skill, so I put all of the recordings on the Blackboard site. I also put piano accompaniments to all of the pieces that they're studying. And this is actually very difficult for students to do, is to play along with the accompaniment. But the more that they do it, the better that they get at it, and the more that it drives their musical understanding and their musical achievement. Because kids who just play alone at home, they develop a lot of kind of non-musical skills, and it's hard for them to play with other people. But now that they have the piano accompaniments available to them, they can work with those accompaniments and prepare at home. I put the piano accompaniments at a slow tempo, and I put piano accompaniments at a concert tempo. So they have a lot of material available to them on the Blackboard site. In my flipped classroom, lots of kids can ask lots of questions, and they can get lots of personal and individual guidance. The other day was really great because I got sent to a meeting, and no substitute showed up for my 5th grade strings class. And that particular afternoon, I had 2 back-to-back 5th grade strings class. And it was really fun what happened, because on one class, somebody actually, who's an assistant who comes along sometimes, tried to conduct the class and tried to conduct them and make them all play one song. And they revolted. They said, no, we don't want to do that. We know what we're working on. We know what we're working on. And then the second class, there was actually no teacher. And the assistant principal came by, and she told me that she didn't even know that there was no teacher in the room, because all of the kids were so engaged, because every single student knows exactly what they're working on, every single student knows exactly what their assignment is, and every single student knows exactly how to practice, because they have the materials available to them all of the time. So it was really great that the assistant principal didn't realize there was no teacher, because the students are so engaged and they're so able to be their own teachers. And that's something that is so important in the age of the internet. We have so much information. We have so much stuff out there on the internet. But are we training young people to be able to look at that information and really become their own teachers of that information? And that's something that I love watching as my kids get used to using Blackboard. They're not just watching a video and playing. They're actually being trained to look at the material online and to become their own best teacher of it. And there is so much information online that we must train our kids to really look at it, really evaluate it, really analyze it, and really figure out how to use it to best progress in their education. So in my flipped classroom, again, my students, they know what their individual goals are, because they're not trapped into just working on one song because the whole class is here. They all know what their individual goals are. As soon as my students walk in the room, they know what to do. They know exactly what to work on. And what's so important is that my class has no artificial boundaries created by the school schedule. And anybody who's in a school knows that we are slaves of this darn school schedule, the bus schedule, the lunch schedule. All of these schedules impose tremendous restrictions on us and on our kids. And Blackboard takes away the imposition of that schedule and just breaks it apart, and means that basically when my kids are coming into class, we're having a spot check, we're having an understanding, we're having conferences, we're having one-on-one attention, but that 45-minute class is not an isolated event. That 45-minute class is a piece of this continuum of their learning which is facilitated by all of the materials that they have online. The class cannot be just a little one-shot deal once a week. The class has to be part of the whole thing that they're working on day in and day out. The other thing I like about having this flipped classroom, because the kids understand what their individual goals are, because the kids understand exactly what they are working on at all times, there's no wait time when they come in. There's nothing that kills me more than watching a class, they come in, and 5 minutes goes by before they're really getting to get anything done. My kids walk in, and they're already working. They are doing each their own best work because they know what to do. So that's a really beautiful thing about the flipped classroom. One of my fifth graders today was complaining about a class that she said, well, it's so boring, and the teacher makes it so boring. And then she said, without me even asking, she said, I like those classes where you give us the stuff on the internet and we go home and read it, and then we get to talk about it the next day. She said, I just love it.
Kristen, we have a question from a participant.
I would love to answer a question.
Great. What do you think the biggest obstacle that is blocking other teachers from adopting your approach and use of this resource?
I think that teachers don't know how easy it is to set up the flipped classroom. I think teachers think that I spend a lot of time putting stuff into my flipped classroom, but one of the things that I'm going to emphasize in this webinar is that it doesn't really take me that much time. The other obstacle is teachers are afraid to have different kids working on different things at the same time in the classroom. So, and people are kind of afraid to let go of that, like, control. But the kids need to be in control of their learning. So those are the two obstacles that I've seen in my county. People think that it's too hard to use Blackboard and get it set up, and people don't understand the idea of all people working on different things at the same time. But if anybody's familiar with like Readers and Writers Workshop, that's another really good model. Kids are all reading different books, but they're talking about the same big questions. And what I'm doing in my classroom is we're all perhaps playing maybe different pieces, but we're all working on those same questions of tone, dynamics, and intonation. I hope that answered.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. So really, I like the term co-investigator. And I really want to train my kids to be co-investigators, because I don't want to see kids coming in and saying, you know, what you got from me today, Mrs. Gomez. No, it's what are we going to accomplish as co-investigators in this journey. And then I like this little sentence I came up with. I said, I have no more assignments. Forget it. There's no more assignments. It's only adventures. We have all these things that we can do. And I want my kids to be very good learners. I don't want them to be good listeners anymore, because we know that kids don't learn when you're just telling them things. And everybody knows that in our elementary schools, we're always hearing, like, being, you know, listeners, you're such good listeners, you need to listen. Well, you know what? We really should not be having the kids just listen all the time. They need to be engaged in creating their own meaning, in creating their own adventures as learners. So I'm really trying to train my kids to be learners. So anyways, you know, I feel like I've broken that my kids are learning all the time, and it's amazing what they can accomplish. And I'll just say that my 4th and 5th graders go 6th grade, they go to different schools. They go to different middle schools, and we have 2 of my 5th graders have become the assistant concertmasters of their 2 different 6th grade orchestras. Like, my kids become concertmasters, my kids are very successful because they have so much access and they are being trained to teach themselves and to learn how to learn. Okay, I guess learning how to learn. You know, fourth graders don't know how to learn. We're still teaching fourth graders how to learn. And fifth graders, you know, they don't know how to learn. They're not full of metacognitive awareness of their learning styles and whatnot. So I think that this is a very good way to help them learn how to learn. So let's look at why the heck did I initiate this flipped classroom. First of all, it was a no-brainer. Look at my schedule. I teach in 2 different schools, and I teach a county-wide orchestra. I have approximately 200 students studying violin, viola, and cello, and that doesn't count my county orchestra. The county-wide orchestra it has its own Blackboard site. I pull kids from 14 different homerooms. I have between 30 minutes and 45 minutes per week per child. And I have this tidal wave of enthusiasm where the kids want to learn more. They want to be able to learn more. And the last and significantly important piece for instrumental music or vocal, any music, we have the need for tremendous auditory input. And I was finding that kids were not getting the kind of auditory input that they needed in order to understand what they were targeting. So these are the reasons why I decided to go with my flipped classroom. I will say that, well, this is why I flipped my classroom. And the number one reason I flipped my classroom is I have lots and lots and lots of kids who really want to succeed, and lots and lots and lots of kids who were actually super frustrated at the short amount of time that we have for instrumental music. So really, the main number one thing is the kids who want to succeed. And this is just a handful of my kids, and they're awesome. So some of the observations that I had made before I flipped my classroom, I could see that kids were already 2 steps ahead of me in using technology to learn songs outside of class. Now, I've been teaching for 20 years about, but I have to say I was embarrassed that I didn't realize how many people post YouTube videos with violin lessons on how to play certain songs. So my kids were going home and searching through YouTube and trying to learn all kinds of songs off of YouTube videos. And I thought, well, that's great that they want to do that. But as an instrumental music teacher, what was happening was they were learning songs that were really, really, really inappropriate, developmentally inappropriate for their technical development. So this is a little musical technique, technical, but we play in certain keys when you're in 4th and 5th grade. You use the key of D, you use the key of G, key of A. You're not using any flat keys, for example, because the kid's technical development's not ready. And so kids are trying to, play through songs in the key of E flat and the key of A flat, and it sounds horrible. So they were trying to learn these songs off of YouTube, but the truth was they sounded horrible. So I said, okay, I need to take this enthusiasm for learning off of videos, and I need to put the songs that are going to be really good for their technical development. So what my observation was that students were spending lots of time outside of class looking for resources in order to learn more about how to play their instruments. They were absolutely using technology all of the time, and I was behind the 8 ball. I was like, sending home CDs of them to listen to, and then realizing that they didn't even have CD players anymore. And I'm kind of embarrassed. I feel old, okay? I'm not that old. I'm really not that old. But students, so I could see the students loved using technology. They loved their iPad. They loved using their parents' iPhones. Kids want to work at their own pace also. Kids get so exasperated when they can't work at their own best pace. It's so frustrating for them. And we have kids want to work at their own best pace. The iPod Touch was very popular, and it was the device that I saw kids using the most in school, and they were just trying to learn all these things off of the internet that were not appropriate for what they were able to play. Because if you want them to sound very, very good and you want them to achieve really high levels of music, you need to know what they're working on, and you need to take them in a step-by-step progression. You can't just let them out there online to learn like whatever. So anyways, I've been trying to integrate all this stuff like for years. And I tried like emailing all the parents, and like maybe 20% of the kids ever got the information because parents were like just too busy or got 25 emails from the school, just deleted school email. So email to my parent body wasn't working. I posted things on the school website, but then they were saying they didn't really want things on the school website because they wanted things encapsulated in private, like in a Blackboard site. And then when I figured out that we had Blackboard and I figured out how to use Blackboard, I just was so happy. And I was a little embarrassed that I hadn't used it sooner, but I didn't have, the school wasn't training the teachers enough. But that's a whole different conversation. Now, pacing. And we've talked a lot about pacing already today. I teach 4th and 5th graders, and in instrumental music, I have everybody from the students who are limited English. I have the English language learners. I have the gifted and talented. I have every single student come to instrumental music. So I'm going to have a huge differentiation that I need to work with. I need to differentiate in terms of product, in terms of process. I need significant differentiation so that I can really work towards the kids' best abilities. And Blackboard really helps with that differentiation of process and product. And lots and every single student. The other nice thing, let me just say, I don't have any standardized testing. So it's very nice for me that I can pace to the student's best pace. Now I do have kids going to be going on to the 6th grade orchestra, so I have the Virginia SOLs, and I follow them closely. But I am saying that I feel that I have a little bit of freedom in pacing because I'm not trying to get everybody through some kind of standardized test. But I am following all of the Virginia SOLs for instrumental music. So the pacing really gets crazy because I have the kids all of 4th grade and all of 5th grade. So you can imagine the differentiation in process and product that's going on by the end of 5th grade. They have hugely different abilities. And I have, for example, a Down syndrome child with a gifted and talented child in the same scheduled class, and we're all playing together. We're all playing incredible music together because that gifted and talented child has all the stuff available. She can fly like the wind, and I can work closely with the students who need me one-on-one. Well, every student needs me one-on-one. And every student basically gets even one-on-one time. So pacing instrumental music, I've gone over a lot of this. My favorite line that I wrote here, is that Blackboard lets me relinquish control of the pacing of my class and turn the control of pacing over to the learner. And a lot of kids want to go too fast, so I need to work very carefully to be sure that their technical development is very, very good. But the beauty of my flipped classroom is that the school schedule is not controlling when the kids learn. And that is so wonderful and makes the kids so happy and makes the kids feel so good about what they're learning and makes the kids so engaged. And that is really the crux of this, is that don't control the kids' pacing. Let them find their own best pace. because when they're working at their best pace, they feel so good about their learning, and they learn more, and then they become completely engaged. When those gifted and talented kids feel like it's too slow, they're going to quit instrumental music. When those kids who need slower, more deliberate pacing, if they feel that it's going too fast, they're going to quit. And we can't let kids quit. It's instrumental music. We're the educators. We have no business having kids quit because they feel frustrated by the pacing. And another situation that we have in our county for 4th and 5th grade instrumental music is generally voluntary, so you're going to sign up. It's not necessarily a class like our vocal music or visual art. Visual art and vocal music are scheduled classes in the schedule. Instrumental music is generally a volunteer course. So how could a school have a kid quit because the pacing is wrong? That's not good education. That's not being a professional. That's not being professional and responding to the needs of the children. And that's why I think pacing is really the most beautiful part of this flipped classroom. That while my class time is spent on how to hold the bow, what's the best formation for your fingers, what's the tip of the finger that we use to play the notes, all these very, very, very difficult technical things that take place on an instrument, the pacing of the individual repertoire is in control. The students are in control. And so no kid feels that the class is too fast, and no kid feels that the class is too slow. And we have a great time. So I cannot emphasize enough how when you can let those children pace themselves at their own best rate, they will be so happy to be learning. Because learning, kids love music. Kids love playing music. And it's just so much fun. And pacing is what kills it. Pacing is what makes kids quit their instrument. And I taught high school guitar for years and years and high school orchestra for years. And the number one reason that kids quit their instruments was that the class was too fast, the class was too slow, or that they didn't get it. And a kid who says, I just don't get it, well, that's the pacing is not right. The pacing is not responding to the kid's learning style. So if we really are going to be differentiating for process and differentiating for product, having an online flipped classroom environment really provides that differentiation. So pacing. So basically the conclusions that I have definitely reached, we're always learning from our students. I watched how they were interacting with technology, and I had to learn from them that I needed to put some technology into place for them because they were already enthusiastic about it and already learning it. They needed me to harness their enthusiasm and to use technology to the best of my ability. So basically, my flipped classroom is so much fun because it's breaking my constraints of time and space. So Blackboard is what we use in Arlington Public Schools, and I'm very happy. I love Blackboard, and I'm trying to get my other colleagues who do elementary instrumental on board. Some of them are using it, but I think when they understand the real benefit of the flipped classroom, not using Blackboard to just house materials, not using Blackboard as a bookshelf, but using Blackboard as a device for the flipped classroom is certainly more interesting and more fruitful. Anyways, I think I skipped a slide. Let me see if I can go back. And then, so the basic question that I think is so vitally important, what really do you want your students to do outside of class so that when they walk in the door, learning already starts? How are we prepping them outside of the class so that they know exactly what's going to go on when they're in class, and they can hit the ground running. Our classes are short, we don't have much time, and we want these kids to be able to hit the ground running. The other really important thing when you're going to flip your classroom is, who is the audience? So obviously, if I had a 12th grade French class or a 4th grade violin class, that's a completely different audience. And it's very, very, very important to really understand your audience and to think about who your audience is. Because if I give a bunch of professionally made videos to my 4th graders that are made from, some music conservatory, I don't know that that's going to really be the right material for my audience. So my flipped classroom, I pull kids from 14 homerooms. So it really becomes almost 28, because in our schools we have a homeroom, a different homeroom for kids that are English language learners. So I have lots of English language learners, which I'm very proud to say. They're very successful. So really, all these different homerooms, what was I going to do with all this? So my ITC, Larry Fallon, who was at BB World with me, he's a wonderful ITC. He created just one big mega course. So every single student that I have is enrolled in just one big mega course. And what I have to do is I have to enroll each student. So it's very simple. I get my class list, I get the student's lunch number, and in Arlington Public Schools, I can enroll each student with their lunch number. But it means that I have to manually enroll every single student I have. And it's really easy. It really does not take much time. It does not take much time whatsoever. And I like having one big mega course because I want to get away from terms like advanced, beginner, because kids don't want to be, they all want to be advanced. Nobody wants to be a beginner. So we're all just learners. We're all just learning. We're all musicians. I don't want to have like advanced orchestra and middle orchestra and beginning orchestra. These are 4th and 5th graders. They're all progressing. They're all learning. So we're all just in one big class together. And I find that it's very, very productive to have one big mega course, because then no matter what school I'm at, the only thing is tricky, sometimes I write like the name of one school on a document and I forget to change it. So I need to be careful that all my documents are not school specific. Within my big mega course, I do have different information for each parent body because the programs are different at different schools. Instrumental music, we have lots of paper. We have lots and lots and lots of paper. We have lots of method books. So I put all my print materials, especially sheet music. And again, I've talked a lot about this, but when kids can go themselves and find their music, they love it because kids want a sense of autonomy. Kids want to be in charge. People are telling them what to do all day long, and they love to have that autonomy. They love to be responsible. So I was floored at how much my kids enjoy getting on Blackboard and finding their music. Getting on Blackboard and finding their music. And I just want to add that I think it's very important that we're providing this environment for them, because it used to be that we would teach children how to use the library. Why were we teaching kids to use the library? So that they could be learners, so that they could go gather information, so that they would have the tools of where to find the right information. Now we have the internet. It is our job to help these kids go out and be able to find information on a website. And it was so actually very funny the other day because my daughter is in high school, and I would say that the average SAT score of my daughter and her friends was like pretty stunning. And they're all going to go to really amazing colleges. And they were on the internet to order Chinese food. And there were like 10 kids there looking at the internet, ordering Chinese food. And they were calling a restaurant in San Francisco. And we live in Falls Church, Virginia. And so I just kind of glanced and said, look at the address of that restaurant. And they were mortally embarrassed. But it just goes to show you that here are some very bright kids going to some amazing colleges, and they're trying to get information off the internet, and they're just making a huge mistake. So I can't emphasize enough how we cannot take for granted that kids can go out on the internet and find the right information. Here were a bunch of high school seniors with stunning SAT scores, all taking the International Baccalaureate, and they were ordering Chinese food from San Francisco. It's like, really, guys, you know, use your brain. But this is why I really, really, really love Blackboard, because I feel like I'm helping the children to learn to gather information on a website. Websites are highly organized. Websites follow very good organizational systems, and it helps the children work with those organizational systems. The library is a brilliant organizational system, but I would wager that our kids are spending more time looking up things on websites than in our libraries. And they need to understand what is that organizational system that is the backbone of a good website. And that is critically important and helps them to have this technology knowledge. So as you can see, I don't think they're just looking up their sheet music. I think they're actually learning to use new informational systems. So basically, my audience, you have to understand, 4th and 5th graders. So it's not going to be some giant thing like if I was teaching maybe AP French. That would be a totally different Blackboard site. My site is pretty simple. It is for 4th and 5th graders, and they're extremely busy families. I would say, based upon my informal, anecdotal polls of parents, the parents give about 2 minutes on the Blackboard site before they say, no, information, couldn't find it, no, wasn't there, no, couldn't find it. Because our parents in the Washington metropolitan area are very, 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 very busy. And so I need it to be very clear so that very busy parents will instantaneously understand how helpful it is. Another thing that is very, very, very important when you're working with 4th and 5th graders, you've got to get their parents to buy in. You've got to have their parents be on board, because learning for a 4th and 5th grader is all about family, school, and child. And I want to draw my parents into my flipped classroom and bring them on board to help the kids with their learning. Every autumn, I have a parent meeting, and I broadcast the Blackboard site on a big screen, and I help the parents to walk through the Blackboard site. And if I don't get the parents on board, it's very difficult for the students to use the Blackboard site. So I would say, given an audience of 4th and 5th graders, if I don't have buy-in from the parents, I'm going to have a very difficult time with that child using Blackboard. Most families are keeping track of what their 4th and 5th graders are looking at online, which is good. And so I really have to have the parents understand how important this is to their students' learning. Some students are not even allowed to use a computer because their parents don't want them on the website. So I would say if you are using a flipped classroom with 4th and 5th graders, a parent meeting is vital. And some print information going out to parents a couple times during the year is very vital. And every time we have a concert, I broadcast the picture of the Blackboard site. And the last little trick I did to get the parents to buy in, I'm posting more videos and more photographs of their own children. because I found out that if I put videos of the kids playing, then they really want to go into the website. Kids love pictures of themselves, so we're going to post more pictures this year. I just want to say I have been loving developing this flipped classroom, and I'm constantly evolving it, and I'm constantly learning from my kids about what's going to work best. So anyways, that's this slide. It must be easy for me to maintain. It doesn't take a lot of time for me to maintain this site. It's part of my daily routine to pop things up there, make little videos. Must be easy for kids who hate computers. We still have kids who say, I really don't like learning off a computer. But we have to get them to learn that it's not that bad. And we have computers. Computers are going to be doing more and more and more. And we have to give kids the opportunity to learn, to interact with their computer, and that it's not a bad thing. So when you go to my flipped classroom, you're just going to see violin lessons 1 through 10. And I'm not going to post 10 through 20 yet because I don't want the kids going ahead too fast. You're going to see information for parents. And information for parents will then split depending upon what school. So I have different schools. But it's really funny because I know how busy my parents are because they can't even keep it straight. I have 2 schools. One's called Ashlawn, one's called Abingdon, and they both begin with A, and the parents don't even read the name. They just click. So that's another thing I'm trying to work with. How can I differentiate the 2 schools for the parents? Maybe a picture of the school. So any information that the parents need is going to be posted there. Every single piece of sheet music that we need, and we use the Suzuki in the schools model. That's a whole different conference. Suzuki in the schools model is a set of songs that progress really beautifully from about first song, about 20 songs in the repertoire. And so the sheet music for those songs is posted for the students. We also use folk music. We use some Appalachia Fiddle songs. We use Sourwood Mountain. We use a jig called Swallowtail. So songs that the kids love. And I try to work with songs that they love. For every single piece of sheet music, I make a video. For every single song, you can play along with the piano. For every single song, you have listening files. It's simple and it's easy. All the sheet music, so I talked a little bit about sheet music. I'm not going to go into that, except that we've had huge success with kids popping the PDF files into iBooks and using it on their iPads. We have a one-to-one iPad initiative beginning this year. The kids haven't gotten their iPads yet, but I'm so excited that I'm ready. So every single piece that the kids are going to study, they can pop right into their iPads. And last year we had performed outdoors, and we had no problem with the wind because all the music was in the iPad. And it was actually so cool, and it looked so cool, having all my kids with their iPads and their music in their iPads. Very, very easy to pop the PDFs into other devices. So, and that's technology awareness and technology knowledge that is an offshoot of the flipped classroom. Audio, as I said, it takes a short time for me to post an audio recording. I use Sibelius, which is a magnificent and very powerful music publishing software, and I can take a Sibelius file, save it as an MP3, and pop it into my Blackboard site. Takes like no time whatsoever. We use GarageBand. We did some beautiful backing tracks last year for some of our music. We also have an incredible program called Smart Music. Any Smart Music file that I use, I can save as an MP3 and pop it into Blackboard as listening file for my children. So the audio is vitally important for instrumental music and so easy to use and so powerful. Video, I'll just say a couple of things about video. It's been great. Uh-oh. That was the PA. We didn't have too many PA announcements during this webinar, which was actually really good. I had to lock my door because kids actually want to practice. Okay, so video is basically my favorite thing. I just have a folder of video clips. Blackboard makes it so easy. I film right from my computer, right from the computer. I open Blackboard, I can film right, and Blackboard saves it. So this is not a webinar on how to make the video, but I cannot emphasize enough on how simple it is, how easy it is, and how quick it is. The other really nice thing that I confirmed with all my wonderful Blackboard people is that video is, yes, a YouTube video, but it's totally private. No one's ever going to see that video unless they are enrolled in the Blackboard class. And obviously working with 4th and 5th graders. And also, I don't want my videos that I'm making for my 4th and 5th graders out there on YouTube for people to put like weird comments. I'm very subconscious. So the private is very, very excellent and powerful piece of Blackboard. Video, I talk to them exactly the way that we talk to them in class so that it's a seamless transition between class and video. I use all the same language. I use all the same vocabulary. I try to recreate, and this is very important. Video with 4th and 5th graders, if you're making the video, try to recreate that personal connection that exists in your class. The video, as I say, I use the same vocabulary. I use the same terminology that I would use in class. Video, I never seek perfection. If I did, I would go crazy. I'm super perfectionist, but I had to completely let go and just get them up there. And, you know, I don't even brush my hair. I just get it up there and make the video. The recordings also, just a little note, when you're recording on your computer and then posting it, it makes the intonation of the instruments a little off, and that's hard for me as a musician because I think it's just the recording device that's in my computer. However, I'm just making the videos for the children to be able to learn the notes so that we in class can work on the music. So I had to let go. Here we go. At least they're not calling me. That would be awkward. Miss Gomez, come to the office. So the recording is going to make the intonation a little off, but remember, you're making the video for the kids to just learn the notes so that when they get to class, you can work with them on making the genuine and beautiful music that they're capable of. So I make a lot of videos. I always think about my audience. I try to be engaging. I try to be funny. I try to be goofy. I'm kind of funny in class. I think laughter is wonderful. I try to get my kids laughing a lot because it kind of breaks the tension. And if they can break the tension, then I think that they can learn more. I keep my videos short, okay? I would never go more than 3 minutes in a video. I keep them short, maybe 1 minute. This one's 1 minute 24. And so for every song that we're playing, I make my video. I try to show the fingers because, again, we're learning the notes so that when we get into class, we can learn the music. I try to show my bow, and I'm getting better at my videos. I try to have fun in my videos. I need to have fun so that the students can have fun. I had to let go of trying to make things perfect. I can't make things perfect. The video is just out there for them. So the video is a very, very powerful, powerful tool. I've got to keep up with the momentum. I've got to keep up with the momentum of my videos. And boy, oh boy, if I am behind on one little thing, they know it. Because they say, but we went home to work on this song and the video is not there. Because they looked 30 minutes later to find a song. So I'm very, very happy. These are some of my students who are now in high school, and they came back to work with some of my younger students. So students love to see themselves in pictures. Students love videos of themselves. Actually, I'm training the students to not all crowd around the camera. But the more that you can place videos of them working, the more that they're going to want to be in your website and go into the Blackboard site and look at it. And the more that you can post videos of students, the more that the parents will become involved with the learning. So my big goal this year is more student videos. That was something that I learned from my students. Anyways, my flipped classroom provides lots of constant review. All the lessons are always on the site. It provides totally easy peasy if students miss classes. It's not a problem anymore. And I'm not scurrying around trying to provide photocopies for parents who are worried about their kids missing. I have significantly improved home practice. Significantly. Wonderfully improved home practice. My challenges, lots of challenges, but that's what keeps it fun, right? Lots of challenges are good. My families are busy. They're not always providing time to my kids. I'm struggle with providing, the accountability piece. It's a volunteer class. Kids are volunteering to play their instruments. So what's my accountability? My challenge is, how do I make my flipped classroom become part of the culture of this classroom? How do I make my Blackboard site more appealing to the kids? How do I make my Blackboard site part of their regular practice? And reflections of fourth graders, this is fun. They like working alone. Computers help me when I don't get it. I like seeing the video when I forgot a song. It helps me learn at home. I knew they would say that. I can find the music, helps me remember. And I like working where no one can see me. This is so important. Kids get all self-conscious with other people watching them. They want to be able to be alone where they're not afraid to make any mistakes. They like to work alone where no one is making them self-conscious. Fourth and fifth graders can be self-conscious. They want to be able to work where they're alone. And then the biggie that kids shared with me is we never get enough time in class. So there you go. It is 4:29. I thought I was nervous about this was going to be too short. But anyways, really critical piece. No flipped class could ever be boring, because we are freeing the students to think for themselves and move at their own best rate of speed. And I want my children to be co-investigators. I want to awaken young talent and creative spirits. So it is 4:30, and Katie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so
So
much.
I want to just say thank you so much to anybody who was listening today. I am having the best time with my students because I feel like I'm more there for them, and I don't feel so busy doing paperwork. I feel more busy actually on the deeper structures of what it means to make music.
And Kristen, thank you so much for such a great presentation and sharing, your expertise, especially with a unique flipped classroom environment with music. We've been addressing questions as they've come in, so I certainly want to welcome everyone to add more questions into the question and answer box or into the chat. But because we're up at time, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the closing slides. But Colleen and I are continuing to watch for questions, and we'll, give them to Kristen if you add more questions in. So wanted to remind everyone to be sure to download the BBK12 Live app if you haven't already. This session and the other sessions of the series will be available in the app. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me at @1KatieGallagher on Twitter or katie.gallagher@blackboard.com if you have suggestions for future topics or you have an interest in presenting this spring. And please join us next Monday for a session by Leslie Fetzer and Leslie White from the North Carolina Virtual School. So thank you so much, Kristen.
So interesting. Well, I'll be signed in for that one.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you, and thanks everyone that took time out of the day to participate. What a great session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie. Okay, bye.
Bye.
This call is no longer being recorded.